Welcome to Project Hardway. You know, if you've got one of these, odds are this thing right here is cooked. Let's see what we can do to make this one maybe work again. Now, when it comes to securing this thing to the truck, there's a couple of trim pieces that go right here, and there's a couple of screws behind there. And then on the back of it are 3 little clips that are pressed onto some molded parts of the plastic here, and they snap into some holes in the dash. Well, over time, this plastic gets brittle and it breaks, and it no longer has the ability to hold on to that stuff. So then what happens is somebody gets in there one day and put duct tape on it to make it stay up on the dash. Now, there are restoration companies that will sell you a new one of these for the price of your firstborn. You could also buy some cheap repops, but I think for just a few dollars and some elbow grease and a little bit of ingenuity, we can make this one that we've already got right here go back on the truck. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to clean this thing up. It's dusty and dirty, and it's also got very old duct tape adhesive on it. Get some Goo Gone or citrus cleaner or something like that. See if I can scrub that stuff off there. All right, after a quick blast with some sprayways, I got most of the dust, dirt, and dog hair off of this thing. This truck used to belong to my wife's grandfather, and he loved his dogs. Now every time my dogs get near it, their noses are stuck to it like magnets. I bought some citrus cleaner and a tub of towels. That stuff, though, is in the back of my family SUV. But my wife has that vehicle right now. She went to Ulta and Home Goods. I'm gonna be broke. I did find this bottle of Goo Gone Pro Power Spray Gel, so I'm gonna put a little bit of that on there, let it soak into it, and see if it'll start to wipe that stuff off and hopefully not destroy the bezel. It's off. It's on. Supposedly. Come on now. Do this the old-fashioned way. We'll just dab it on there. Now, as long as this doesn't screw up the bezel, there's some duct tape residue on the dashboard as well. You know, you put it on here, then you put it on there, and it holds it together, right? We'll put this on the dash and get that stuff off of there too. All right, so new course of action. This stuff is so old and hard and dried up on there that stuff just wasn't really getting into it. So now I've got my razor scraper, and I'm just, you know, walking that fine line between lightly getting what I can off with this and, you know, completely destroying the bezel. All right, so finally, I got most of this residue off here. If I look close, I can still see a little bit. You know, I was getting so impatient with getting this stuff off of here that I just had to dab some Goo Gone on it and then go away and do something different for a little while. I made these Dolly Parton chocolate chip cookies. But after going back and forth and scrubbing and hitting it with, you know, plastic nylon brush and scrubbing the heck out of it and spending half my life doing it, got that off there. The reason I wanted to do this now is because I didn't want to do the repair and then while that repair is trying to set, be aggressive with it, you know. And I'm going to be honest, that made me want to buy a new one. I mean, that was some bull. All right, so now we can get into what we're going to do here. So here, here, and here are the remnants of the clips where they attach. They had these little plastic pedestals that you can see this one's still stuck in there. And this just snipped on top of that plastic, and over time it got brittle and snapped off. So what we're going to do is try to find a way to reattach those clips back onto that area of the thing. You can see somebody has already done a similar type of repair to where the fuel selector switch goes. So we're going to follow that same path. All right, so I've already gone ahead and done one of these off camera. And the reason I did that is because, you know, when you're sitting around cooking up an idea of how to do something, you know, it may not go one way or the other. So went through that whole process to see what I was going to do. Now I'll show you what I did on another one. All right, so here's one of our clips that snapped off the pedestal. And if I can get it to show it, they separate, but there's this little hook thing here. It hooks over. You can try to gently pry that up. Odds are it's going to break though. It's very thin, very old. But if you can get, oh, yep, see I broke that one, and I already broke the other side. So once that's done, the clip will separate. And that needs to happen because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a screw down through here, and I need to be able to get access to that screw to tighten it down. So we'll knock out the piece of plastic that broke off of the bezel. Get out of there, you. Get that spread out just enough that I can fit a screw and a screwdriver in there. Now we'll come over here to the hole. So I've got this JB Weld 2-part plastic weld epoxy. This stuff is supposed to set in about 5 minutes. The last time I did it, it took a little bit longer. It's one of these deals that you got to mix it up. So I'll take the cap off. I'm just going to get a little bit out there, just enough for what I'm trying to do. Get that cap back on there. They give you this little stick to mix it up with. I'm going to make sure I get that good and mixed up real good. And this stuff stinks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some down off in that hole that is there from where that pedestal snapped off. That way when the screw goes in there, it's not just going into the plastic. It's going to get some of that to harden around it and give it something to grab hold of. Then I'm also going to build up some of this stuff around the outside edges. Now I've got these number 6 3/4 inch screws. I'm going to take this with a small washer. And as I'm doing this, that epoxy is starting to run down the pedestal. So I'm working against gravity here and time. So I'm going to slip that in there. Bingo, bango. Where'd my screwdriver go? And now I'm going to gently screw this down into that hole. Uh-oh. Looks like this hole might want a bigger screw. No worries, I do have some number 8 screws. Hopefully it doesn't destroy it. Careful. Easy does it. You try to ramrod this thing and you're just going to blow your plastic apart. So in this case, I think I'm going to stack some washers because I'm not getting the drive out of this that I want. I may have too long of a screw for that hole. Remember, time's ticking. That epoxy's setting. Going for broke here, I'm just going to go ahead and throw 3 washers on here. So hopefully I don't have to take it back apart and we can get a good clamp force on it. And I think that will get her where she needs to be. Now that that's set in there, I'll get what's left of my epoxy here and just kind of dab it around the edges. You recall a second ago I said that epoxy was starting to run down the plastic. Well, once we've got some more kind of shoveled on there, something just for it to grab hold of around the edges, what we're doing is we're sticking a screw in there and then trying to glue the screw, the plastic, and the clamp all together with this plastic weld. So, get all that gummed up, and I'll just take this and flip it upside down, let gravity pull that back down towards the clamp or towards the clip, and let it set. All right, so now that that's set, you got to get these tongs back together so they can go in the hole, you know, and then they can go in and hold it in there. This one, I put a little zip tie on, but I don't think that zip tie is going to go through the hole. This one, and the reason I had to do this is because those little tabs that hold them together, you know, remember, they broke apart and they won't go back on because they're gone now. This one I was able to take my needle nose pliers and just kind of bend it back to where they're close enough together. The only thing I can see happening there is maybe when I go to put it back on the truck, I've got to reach in and pinch these together just a little bit to get them in there. But once they get in the holes and it's set on the dash, no big deal. Now I'll do the third one. All right, there's the third one on there, and I was actually able to save one of those little tabs that keeps it together. So that's what it should look like. Now while this stuff sets in about 5 to 10 minutes, it needs at least 24 hours to cure. So I'm going to leave this alone. I think we're going to do something with this here. Maybe, see, it's got these little plastic tabs that used to stick up off of here, and then this would slip off of there. I think we may just take some of that stuff, smear it on here, and clamp it down overnight. All right, just got some glue there on the spots where those tabs used to be. Get all that in position. All right, now I've got some of these clothespins I have left over from the headliner job on my S10. And I'm just gonna let all this sit and just leave it alone until sometime tomorrow. Duct tape is not a car part. All right, this thing's had a couple of days to sit around and cure up. It looks like these things are on there pretty good. Pop these clips off. That thing is on there too. We've got these little foam pads seal up the light, transfer area for the warning lights and stuff like that. Need to find that one and put it back on. That's glued back on there now. Just use a little bit of spray adhesive, let it sit. That's good. I took that zip tie off of this clip and bent it back into shape with needle nose pliers. I would say this thing is ready to pop back into the truck and then figure out what we're going to do about these holes here where they screw into the dash. All right, I'm going to slip this thing back up here. I'm going to put, oh, get down there, you. We'll pop this shifter down. Get that kind of in place. Got to pull this headlight knob off again. Get off of there, you. Don't break. Please don't break. Ah, there we go. It broke, sort of. And then we've got to also get this dog up. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to put this fuel selector switch on the bezel before we try to wrestle it on there. Ow! All right, take two. Try to get this bad girl down in there. Let's see, slip that down a bit. Just do all that work and then go to put it on and it just shatters into a million pieces. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Come on, there. Oh yeah, there we go. That was the move. Pull the shifter back. All right, plug in this fuel selector harness one day. Okay, make sure I pull my Bluetooth microphone up out of there. And now to snip it back in these holes. Please don't break. I'm gonna need that later. I bent the heck out of one of these prongs here. Should have made sure it was lined up, shouldn't I? Let's see, come on. But the plastic weld didn't break, so that's good. Where's that? Okay. There we go. There we go. Now that part's up there, and now I'll pop these screws out and see what I can do about putting some washers big enough to cinch this down this way. Which, I mean, yeah, we need to. Okay, I just snipped some washers on the bolts there and let them grab a hold of what was left of the plastic part of the bezel that retains it. We are secure for at least another 6 months until I have to make a tab to just cover this whole thing and cinch it in there. Now we can pop the trim back on. That one's broken. Now slip the headlight switch back on. Just like that, my bezel is now secured to the dash without duct tape. Great. Now, while for obvious reasons I'm not a fan of duct tape, I did invite a couple of adhesives onto the dash bezel. One here, I mounted my Bluetooth mic up in there so it's out of the way of wind noise and things like that. my voice will go right to it. And then I put this magnetic phone mount up here so that, you know, boom, there we go. And she is all set, ready to roll. Well, I gotta say, I'm glad that that dash bezel is back up on the truck and not jiggling around all over the place or getting a fresh coat of duct tape on it. And yeah, that was something that, you know, for an old truck like this, it's got all sorts of issues and beat up and banged up, you know, why bother with it? But you'd be surprised over time, you know, when you touch up on little things here and there, how much that stuff adds up to something that's a lot better than what you think it might be. We're going to do more of that in the future with this truck. Up next, got to do something about that absolutely knackered steering wheel. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, sometimes you got to do things the hard way.